Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
We found it to be pretty oppressive staying in Canada. We tried to get out twice before the February fly-out date, and everything kept on getting shut down. And then we finally found a flight out and took off. We were having a hard time here.
As soon as we landed, we were put in a room, all of us, like there must have been the whole plane in a room. They're so restrictive and they were so, they were just anal about, that we had to stay in one area. So anyway, we went to another area and then we went through customs, the whole thing, and then they put a little sticker in our passport.
Yeah, at customs, they asked us if we had a quarantine plan. I says, yes, we do. We're going to be going to our house and we're going to be quarantining, self-isolation there, which is our Canadian right. It's our right. It's our right to have freedom of movement based on our Charter of Freedoms and Rights.
The Vosburghs got 2 tickets each, and each ticket is $5,000 plus victim fine surcharge, which comes to about $25,000 in total for 2 people. So the fact that there's this discrepancy between giving some people 1 ticket and other people 2 tickets, and if you'll notice closely, these people are actually being given 2 tickets under the same section number as well. So it's a double charge.
It's too oppressive here, to be caged in your own home. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. We had the best 3.5 months ever this last trip. And I think half of it was because we were free.
For a full year and a half, Canadians have been no stranger to what we once thought were protected chartered rights being degraded and stomped on by all levels of government. And some people are fed up. They're not going to take it anymore. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini, bringing you one of our recent Fight the Fines cases. That's Gary and Cheli Vosburgh. See, when they saw the restrictive measures being imposed on everyday Canadians, especially Cheli as an independent businesswoman, they wanted to get out of Dodge. And since Cheli was originally from Mexico, they thought that it would be a good opportunity to set out and explore her homeland while waiting for the storm to pass. Here in Canada, the storm hasn't passed. And they had to come home to regroup. But when they tried to return back to their home country of residence, they were shocked at what they faced. Hear it from them.
We found it to be pretty oppressive staying in Canada. We tried to get out twice before the February fly-out date, and everything kept on getting shut down. And then we finally found a flight out and took off. We were having a hard time here.
And Cheli, you originally came from Mexico, so you're both familiar with the country and the areas. How did you feel leaving Canada and returning to your homeland, quote unquote, during these times?
Returning homeland was really great because the restrictions don't seem to be as oppressive down there. And we were here, we were in the house, it was winter. So down there it was we were outside, so it was more comfortable. But then coming back, it's pretty hard to come back to the lockdowns here.
And before we get into what happened to you at Pearson Airport upon your arrival home, maybe we can just touch quickly on the fact that you were a woman in business previous to the COVID government-imposed mandates and shutdowns of small business. So Cheli was running a salon from her home. And what's happened to your business since the onset of this pandemic in March 2020?
I had to shut down the business because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford the not having the economic intake of money. It was really hard. So I had to shut down my business. I had to close it. So, which is really, really hard mentally, emotionally, and physically as well, because it all touches down on that. I love helping people, and now I can't.
That's unfortunate. Now, the travel restrictions and the flight restrictions at Pearson, I mean, they're ever changing, but I understand that you had to take a PCR test prior to boarding your flight. So maybe we can run from that point. What was the test result, and then subsequently, how was your flight home?
Yeah, we had to look around in Mexico for a lab that would do the PCR test. Because everybody seems to want to shove those things up your nose.
So getting back to your Air Canada flight home back to Canada, what was it like on the flight?
Well, we were able to upgrade. So we were in first class, and it was kind of nice that way. Except it was a red-eye flight, so we left at about 12 o'clock, 12:40 in the morning, and I figured I'm going to get some sleep. So as soon as you walk on the plane, yeah, of course you had to wear a mask. I mean, that was the longest we ever wore a mask in the 3.5 months we were in Mexico, was on this plane ride home. And so it had to be up over your nose. And I'm going, well, you know, that was never an issue anywhere else that I've ever been. It had to be up over your nose. And so I tried to get some sleep on the plane, and the stewardess, this Air Canada stewardess, kept on poking me. I'm in the middle of sleep, and she's poking me. We got these beautiful chairs that went out. She's poking, and says, "Your mask is slid down past your nose." And I'm going, "No, I'm not trying to sleep here."
While you're sleeping.
Yeah, while I'm sleeping. I don't understand these people, but anyway, they were very stringent on the rules, and not a very nice group.
Now, what happened upon your arrival to Pearson Airport?
Well, that was Cheli. You want to get in on that?
Oh, it was very, very restrictive. As soon as we landed, we were put in a room, all of us, like there must have been the whole plane in a room. And then, they just told us to go there and sit down, basically. So I went to the washroom, came back, sat down. And then I see, people trickling up, at the airport. So I get up and I go investigate, what's going on. And, there is a lady there. She says, "Oh, are you a Canadian citizen?" And I say, "Yes, I am." And says, "Do you have a Canadian passport?" I say, "Yes, I do." He says, "Oh, well, you can just go." So we went up to another area. We took off,
place.
And everybody was standing behind us. I mean, nobody dared get up and ask, because they're so restrictive, and they were so, they were just anal about, that we had to stay in one area. So anyway, we went to another area, and then we went through costumes, the whole thing, and then they put a little sticker in our passport.
Yeah, at customs, they asked us if we had a quarantine. Arrive Canada was what you have to fill out. And so we had filled out at Arrive Canada, and we weren't going to quarantine in a hotel, and we weren't going to take another PCR test, and we told them that. And he says, "Do you have a quarantine plan?" I says, "Yes, we do. We're going to be going to our house, and we're going to be quarantining our self-isolation there." So we put on a orange or a red sticker on our passports.
Yeah, a blue.
Blue
sticker.
Okay. Yeah, blue sticker, and then that blue sticker, then we went through various other checkpoints. It's like a maze, and they said, "Well, you have to go down there then." They looked at the sticker.
Health Canada.
You have to go down there to the Health Canada room. So we did, along with one other family from Montreal, and another family from Mexico, and another couple of girls from
Montreal too.
Montreal as well. And so because we had all refused to do the quarantine, which is our Canadian right. It's our right. It's our right to have freedom of movement based on our Charter of Freedoms and Rights.
Well, doesn't it say that in the first page of your passport?
It actually says that right on the passport. So in any case, we were pretty adamant about following and protecting our rights. Tough go in this country right now to protect your rights. Any case, we talked with the health department people there. There's a couple of young guys, officials, but they didn't look like officials. Anyway, we says, "Yeah, no, we're not going to do the quarantine hotel." And he says, "Well, I got to write out tickets for you." I says, "Yeah, I understand that." He says, "Why don't you just go and get the PCR test here? It's not a invasive treatment. It's just, they just rim it around the nose." And I'm going, "Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we'll pass on that too." He says, "Okay." So they proceeded to write out four $5,000 tickets, 2 for each of us, plus GST, which is a nice little touch on the end. So 10-15 minutes later, we're on our way out, still trying to get out of the maze, and people were yelling at us. These official-looking people, I don't know who they were. They were yelling at us, "Where are you going? Where are you going?"
But by this time he had put a red sticker on us, so
A
that
green
means a green one.
I think it was green. Doesn't matter.
So there's some sort of sticker hierarchy here of color coding
Color
for
coding.
who's complying with what or what restrictions apply to
Yes.
whom.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, interesting experience, and we're very thankful to Rebel News and Fight the Fines. I'll throw that in there because you folks within 2 weeks have allowed us to get rid of most of the anxiety of this experience.
Well, this totals $20,000 plus tax for the two of you just to return to your home country with a negative PCR test.
Correct.
And to opt to quarantine in your home,
Correct.
which you've abided by. Today is the final day of the 2-week quarantine.
It was over at 7:00 this morning.
And what has the quarantine been like here at your home?
Well, it's every day you have to account for yourself online with Arrive Canada app, which is fine.
Sorry, is this something that they ask you to download?
You actually need to download that to be able to get back into the country, I understand.
Wow.
Arrive Canada. So we had to then accept, we were ordered to answer the phone if a certain number called. That was part of the Arrive Canada app. You must, I think was the terminology, answer the phone if this number calls. So I did, and we would talk, and it became harassment after a while because they did it 7 times.
In one day?
No, in the 2-week period, it just was. Have you done this? Have you done that? And it's really not very
That's
pleasant.
a lot of anxiety.
Oh,
Anxiety, incredible anxiety. Like, no sleeping well. My stomach is upset.
My stomach
his
is
stomach.
upset.
It's incredible just because of the oppressiveness of it. That we
Exactly.
have to stay here, and then the police came looking for me, not for him. One
Well,
time, and
yeah.
that was just like,
they didn't follow very well their own protocols at the airport because they didn't get Cheli's phone number. Everything was on my phone. And so they could never get a hold of Cheli, so they would phone me and they would want me to give the phone to Cheli so they could check on her and make sure she was. And then, I don't know, for one time, about day 6, the health department phoned the OPP phoned the Port Hope police, and they had 2 of them at our door.
Just to check up?
Checking on Cheli. They
just me.
never even asked
They
for me.
wanted me. They didn't want him, and I was in the shower, right? And he says they want you, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, what's happening here, right? So I come here to the deck. They are right there, standing, and they want to know if I am who I am. So I say, yeah, that's me. And he says, well, I just wanted to. I don't know what he said, but it was just horrible. Here I come in my bathrobe, soaking wet, and that like. The police want me, like, I feel like a fugitive.
I know, yeah.
Well, my question is, what kind of crime was being committed? What warrants police to your home? And, it seems very invasive.
What warrants it is the health department has far too much power in this whole scenario. That's what warrants it. Of course, it's not legal, but it's happening all the time, and we're probably not the only ones that this is happening to.
Now that you're back here in Canada, I understand that you have given thought to leaving again. So what does the future look like for you?
Well, we've got a couple of months to make things happen around here and get organized for it, and then it would seem at this point that we're going to be taking off again. Yeah, in the fall.
Yeah.
And can you give our viewers just your quick reasoning behind getting out of Dodge?
Well, yeah, I was born in this town. I'm 70 years old. And it was a pretty good Canada at one point for many, many years. It was a good Canada. And as much as I love the country, I hate the politics and I hate the tyranny that's going on in this country. And so it's a fearful place to be if you stand up for your rights. If you cow down and if you become everybody's heard the word sheep. If you just follow everything that they tell you, you're going to be very sorry people. All you people that don't think you have to stand up for your rights, anyway.
And anything from you, Cheli, as someone who came to this country from Mexico and is now contemplating leaving this country back to Mexico? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like they've taken my rights to earn a living to provide for my family. And I think that is the hardest thing for me because I've always been a very independent woman. I've been working ever since I can remember, and now I can't. You know, so I really feel, I don't know how I feel, but it's very tough for me to give up my business, my independence, my livelihood.
In what was once supposed to be a free country. Now, do you have any final thoughts or a message for Canadians who wish to travel?
It's going to be a bit of an ordeal, but if you want to go.
Definitely. I mean, it's absolute beautiful out there. The freedom that you have just to be outside in the sun in the winter, you know, just get out because it's too oppressive here, you know, to be caged in your own home, you know, it's hard. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. We had the best 3.5 months ever this last trip. And I think half of it was because we were free.
Yeah. Yes.
Facing combined fines of upwards of $20,000 would be a hard pill for any average working Canadian to swallow, and especially one whose business has been decimated by government-imposed restrictions. Being able to offer peace of mind to people for simply trying to come home without being forced into the Trudeau government's rapey hotels and coerced into medical testing that offers questionable results is exactly why Rebel News has undertaken this massive civil liberties campaign. No one else is. See, we are crowdfunding legal defense for cases exactly like this. Jenna Little, she's the paralegal representing Gary and Cheli, she joined me to make a few comments about this case. Here's what she had to say.
I've noticed a trend lately where people are getting only singular tickets each. And I noticed that the Vosburghs got 2 tickets each, and each ticket is $5,000 plus victim fine surcharge, which comes to about $25,000 in total for 2 people. So the fact that there's this discrepancy between giving some people 1 ticket and other people 2 tickets, and if you'll notice closely, these people are actually being given 2 tickets under the same section number as well. So it's a double charge for essentially one occurrence. And for me, that's really important.
Without giving away the game plan and how you'll proceed, how do you plan to fight? What is the basis that you plan to fight this on?
Well, at this point, I mean, it's similar to a double jeopardy kind of issue where you can't charge somebody twice for the same offense. So I need to get copies of the Crown's evidence, figure out what exactly they think the problem is and why they've been given 2 tickets each under the same section number. And that's the angle I'm going to take, you know, originally. If I can find anything else in the disclosure or in the Crown's brief that I can pick apart, I will definitely do that as well.
Double jeopardies, stomping on mobility rights, coercing people into medical testing, and confinement over threats of fines, and showing up at people's homes to intimidate them and ensure their compliance is not exactly the kind of country I thought I would be raising a family in. And yet, here we are. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Freedom of mobility is a chartered right. It literally says that on the inside page of the Canadian passport. We have the right to travel freely without hindrance or delay. We're going to help people like Gary and Cheli Vosburgh through our Fight the Fines campaign, which is now a registered charity under the Democracy Fund to ensure that people aren't restricted from this right. If you can help us with crowdfunding for this cause, please consider donating what you can at fightthefines.com.